Once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, there were princesses who were both beautiful and brave, that even dragons would listen to their every command. These were created by a wizard with a paintbrush and a pen. He would spend days dreaming and imagining incredible characters, and his name was Walt Disney. You might have heard of Mickey Mouse, but that was just the beginning of the Disney magic. Disney Studios celebrates 100 years of existence in 2023, and this is a 3-part podcast series tracing the wonders of Disney's worlds. In part 1, we heard stories about how cartoon animations used to be done in the times of Walt Disney. In part 2, we heard about how Disney princesses have changed from the docile Snow White to the warrior Princess Raya. And in part 3, which is this episode, we have a special guest, an animator from Disney Studios, who will walk us through incredible stories about how movies like Frozen and Moana get made. Hi there, you're listening to What's New Today, a kids and family podcast about current events shaping our world. This is your host Sangeeta from India, and in this episode I am joined by...
Hi, my name is Shriya. I am 10 years old and I live in Bengaluru.
Hi, my name is Ananya. I'm 12 years old. I study in 6th grade and I live in Mumbai.
Hi, I'm Chatrasal. I am 33 years old and I'm working at Walt Disney Animation Studios. I live in Los Angeles, California in USA, and I'm working at the old Animation Legacy Studio in Burbank.
Wow, that sounds like a great place to be in.
Welcome, all three of you. Normally, the kids who come on this show share their ideas on each new story. But this episode is a bit different since we are more eager to hear from Chatrasal. Shriya, Ananya and I will take turns and shoot a few questions his way. And we're eagerly looking forward to hearing a lot of interesting behind-the-scenes stories. How about we begin today's show by going around and each one of us talking about our most favorite Disney character. Would any of you like to go first?
I can go first. My favorite character is probably Mufasa from Lion King, Simba's dad. I think he was probably a great role model for me growing up. That's my favorite character.
Awesome. Who doesn't love anything related to Lion King? Who wants to go next?
I like Mirabel from Encanto because she always believed in herself and never gave up.
Wow.
Amazing.
I like Judy Hopps from Zootopia. It's not a very known movie, but I watched it when I was small and I've watched it like 100 times till now. I like Judy Hopps because she's so determined. It doesn't matter if everybody tells her that she can't do it, she's wrong, she won't be able to achieve her dreams. Still, she achieves her dreams and she works forward. She's very determined and goal-oriented, which is great for me.
Very
Great
interesting
answer.
choice of characters. So I'll go last. Actually, my favorite is also from The Lion King. I kind of like both the Pumbaa and Timon characters together for the incredible sense of humor that they bring. And of course, I love Hakuna Matata, the song from the movie. So I'll begin with a question for Chatrasal first. So when you start thinking about a character, let's say a very well-known story like The Lion King, and if you wanted to think about Mufasa or Simba, how does somebody start with first sketching that character?
Okay. So everything is pitched by the first, the director and the core story team. They are the ones who come up with the story of the movie, the plot lines, the characters, personality, and things like that. But obviously, they can't do everything. So once they have an idea about who these characters are and what the story is, they give it to the character design artists, who are the ones who basically start to make sketches. And there's actually a lot of reiterations that go through. They make notes like, the eyes are too big because it makes him look a little childlike. So let's make the eyes smaller. Let's make his jaw a little bit bigger so he looks more like authoritative, things. This is mainly like, I'm just talking about Mufasa for example. So the story artists and the directors work with the character designers to make these characters sort of come to life. They have to do sketches of these characters in all different angles. So animators and the people who are working in production know how this character looks from every angle. And then after that, we basically take those sketches onto a software like the one that we use in Disney is called Maya, Autodesk Maya. We basically take the sketches onto the Maya software and make 3D, the 3D modelers make 3D models out of it. And then we animate and so forth.
Monsters Inc. or Monsters University, Sullivan has so many hairs on his body. He has so much fur. It's like the dogs and animals that are there in Disney movies also. They have so much hair and so much fur. So it's like they can't sketch out each hair and again and again and again, right? So like, what happens?
Yeah, that's a good observation. I think both Monsters Inc., Monsters University, all the newer CG movies, they're all on computer and it's done all on software. So none of these movies have, well, most of them at least, like 99% of the 3D movies are all computer generated images. And for fur, hair, cloth, things like that, there are actually departments in animation, like cloth department, fur department. They're little bit more technical because they apply the right physics on the character. So when we animate, I'm an animator, I bring life into the characters, I do acting for them. And then on top of that, the cloth or the hair or anything that they have is basically handled by another department to make it look right for that world. So that's how it is. It's called the CFX department, character effects department. They are the ones who take care of cloth, hair, fur. Nice question.
So, like in Tangled, when Rapunzel used to move around, her hair used to move with her. But how do you do that in animations? Like, what do you do what tools do you use?
So that's the same thing. Her hair was actually done by the character effects department. And I think Tangled, when it came out in 2010, was at that time the most expensive animation movie made. And most of it was because of her hair, because it was very hard to tackle. It was 13 years ago. Tools were just starting out. So as animators, we would give them so we don't draw on the Autodesk Maya necessarily that gets shown on the big screen, but inside our studio, we have tools where we can do rough sketch passes. As animators, we can show the cloth, hair, and fur department what we want artistically the hair to look like. So animators would do a pass of Rapunzel, and then they would draw some sketches on how they want the hair to flow. And then the character effects department would actually go and create that hair behind her based on the sketches that the animators provide. That's how it was done. It was a very painstaking process, but I think it's also one of Disney's most successful movies. It was actually the first 3D Disney princess movie that revived 3D animation for Disney, because it was a tough time for Disney at that point. They were transitioning from 2D animation to 3D animation, and nobody had done a 3D princess movie. Disney was popular in doing that in 2D hand-drawn animation, but computer animation, it was the first one done. It was a bit of a risk, but it did really well for the studio.
How much time will it take? So when you say, I want that hair to be tucked and it has to look straight, the moment I say that too, how much time will it take?
So usually each scene, based on its complexity, has man days. Let's say, for example, Flynn tugging on Rapunzel's hair, and if it's only a 1 second shot, let's call it, if it's only a 1 second shot, then it might take them maybe like a week. Because to get it right, to get it approved by the director, yeah, this is something we can talk about separately. I work on a movie sometimes for 1 or 2 years, and I end up with doing about 45 to 50 seconds of animation, because it takes it takes a long time to get the approval and the quality perfect. Yeah.
Wow.
So
I think if y'all are putting in 2 years of effort, we should each watch a movie how many times?
that's why she's seen Zootopia so many times.
I've seen it like at least 50 times. At least 50 times.
50.
I
Really?
think you and me are tied on that, probably. That's one of my favorite movies as well. I really like that movie.
Which Disney movie have you seen a lot of times? I'm going to assume it's Frozen.
I watched it 5 times, like 4 times at home, and then I told my mom, "Can I please go see it in the theater with the popcorn and all? I need to." And then she took me there. And Frozen 2 was the best. Like, how did Disney evolve, like from 2D into 3D? How did it evolve?
Okay, so yeah, 2D animation is anything that was like hand drawn on traditional paper and then ink and painted on the paper, and versus 3D animation is anything done with the software. To answer your question about the transition, I would say 80s and 90s were considered the golden era, where they were making Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, one hit after the other. But towards 92, I think, was the first time when Pixar came out with Toy Story 1 in 3D animation, and it just shook up the animation industry. And so they realized that 3D animation was going to be the future, and you could render things very quickly, whereas in 2D animation you had to actually go and hand paint and do those things. So in 2000s is where Disney transitioned from 3D to 2D to 3D. And I think the last couple of movies that Disney did in 2D was in early 2000s, where they Princess and the Frog and Winnie the Pooh, I think, were the last few 2D movies, and then they transitioned to their, Dinosaur, Chicken Little, Bolt, and then Tangled, Frozen, Zootopia, Moana, Raya, Encanto. Yeah. So that's the transition of 2D to 3D for Disney.
You talked about how long it took for like rendering each frame.
Mhm.
So how far into the animations can the story department change up the story?
So that happens more often than you think. They change it a lot. And sometimes it can come towards the last 4 or 5 months of production. And that, if they have changes that they feel they cannot meet, then there are sometimes they have to push the deadlines. An example is actually Zootopia. Zootopia, I think this is there in the art book, but believe it or not, the main character earlier was Nick and not Judy. So they basically changed that. That required them to do a lot more changes. And Disney always releases movies in November during, if you just see their release dates, it's all in November during Thanksgiving. But Zootopia got changed because of their storyline and certain other things, factors, and it got changed to March. So 4 months delay, because they had to actually cater to the changes. And luckily it worked out, because I think it was the second highest grossing Disney movie after Frozen 2. It made $1 billion, but it was a very good change. So changes can come at any time in the production. Obviously faster is better, so that artists don't have to do this extra work that gets thrown away. So good question. Yeah, but it hardly ever happens where what is imagined at the beginning is what ends up. In between, they have many screening for select audiences and family of the people who are working on the movie to get there, and then there is the story team and the management team. They're sitting in the theater and they're basically observing the audience reaction, just to get an idea, like, okay, we intended this part to be funny, okay, they are laughing. We intended this part to be serious, okay, they are very engaged. And and they also have like a questionnaire with them, what you followed, what you didn't. So based on that, they keep making changes but changes always happen. Like it's something that we are used to.
Is it easier to make new animals in new movies when you already have some basic sketches from other movies? Like,
Sequels, that's why studios sometimes they like it, because a lot of the legwork for that is kind of done. You've also established the world, you established how the characters move in that. Yeah, I think research and development in that might not be as extensive as doing it for like a brand new movie. So you're right that way.
To ask.
Uh,
Just want to go around and tell us which is your most favorite song from any Disney movie. Shriya, you want to go first? You can't nail it to one song. Too many going in your head.
I want to go first before Shreya takes my answer. I like We Don't Talk About Bruno in Encanto.
Let It Go from Frozen 2 was really nice.
No prizes for guessing that a Frozen song had to feature here. All right. Ananya?
I have two ones actually. One is from Encanto and one is from Frozen 2. So, one is the Isabella song, What Else Can I Do? And the other one is Into the Unknown by Frozen 2.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Absolutely great one. I'll stick to my Hakuna Matata, which is my all-time favorite.
That's a classic too. Yeah, that's an amazing one.
Are the songs, like say Let It Go or Into the Unknown, are they made first or are the animations made first?
Songs are definitely made first. They usually have the artist record the song. And then after we record the song, animators are not great dancers. They could be, but many of them are not. But Disney, we bring in choreographers. I know for Encanto, we brought in like these amazing Latin dancers. They were, who were performing these Latin performances, and they usually they will basically listen to the songs. Choreographers and the director will work together in bringing that to life. So we have that as a reference before we start. And it's already such a strong place to start because we have all their movements, their body arcs and things like that. If you ever go through one of these salsa dances and you pause at any frame, you will see like a great line of action that the dancers have in their body. And I think we try to get all of that information online. That's why I think it's so successful. And they try to do that with, I think that's more with choreography, but if it's song, we try and act it out ourselves. But songs is definitely needed first because we bring the audio file into our software and then listen to it and try to record ourselves, sometimes doing video of ourselves, and then try to put the characters acting like how the director wants it.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me, I think I read a story somewhere that in the very early days, I'm talking about when Walt Disney was still alive, sometimes when these character sketches were done, the 2D animation artists, the 2D sketches were done, these animators would have, or the cartoonists would have a mirror in front of them.
Oh, yeah. We still do. It's really, it's the quickest way for us to just see what a shape would look like, if I'm doing an O, like how the brows would be when I'm animating. So that's like the fastest way to do. A lot of people still follow that practice. So it's almost like an essential for any animator. I was seeing
during the lockdown, you were not allowed to go to the studio even when the pandemic was at its peak. So so many different departments are there, so many different animators are there, and they all have to collaborate for their movie to come in cohesively. So like, how did you manage it when you were not in one place?
Yeah, I think that's what COVID proved, that it is possible. I think it's definitely harder to collaborate, but I think you feel like when you're working from home, you feel there's not as much effort, but I think in fact there was more, because to communicate everything, we had to constantly be on Zoom calls. If I have to coordinate, because you have to constantly sometimes speak with the person who's doing the shots before you and after you. Usually when I'm in the studio, I can just go up to their desk and be like, this is what I'm planning. If you end your shot like that, then, we can hook it up easily. But when you're working from home, you have to, schedule a Zoom call, ask if they're free, and then talk to them about it. So, but it worked out. I mean, they released Encanto was done during the lockdown completely, and it was such a big success. So it's definitely possible, but I think animation is a very collaborative process. And
In a movie, how many animators work on one movie?
one movie, about 100, close to 100 in just animation, but that is just animation, only animating the characters. The whole crew, which CFX, modeling, rigging, there is all the other departments combined. There should be at least 700 people, maybe.
700
around.
people come together to make one movie.
Yeah, and they are on it for a while. I mean, directors and story team is probably on it for like 3-4 years, but departments generally are on it for at least a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. I just have one last trivia question. All
Okay.
the old animations, right? Like the 2D animations that were done, like Snow White or Mickey Mouse, are they all saved somewhere safely in a vault?
Disney has a animation, like an archive team. They have actually funded that team, and they are constantly working on. They have all the drawings saved. I think almost everything saved, and they are actually now working toward digitizing each drawing so that when you go online and you search for like legendary animator like Glenn Keane or Walt Kimball or one of the people who animated in the 70s, you can actually look up their name and all the scenes that they work on will come up. But I mean, it's still very much work in progress. It's a long way. They have only reached I think they've only reached 2000s or the 90s. Then they have to keep going back and archiving. But to answer your question, all the layout drawings, they're all kept in a. I've actually visited that. It's inside the Disney studio. It's kept safely there. And I think the plan at least, is to digitize all of them.
All right. Is that it?
Only request to Disney is to make an Indian princess, please.
That's my. Hopefully I can come up with something and at least try to pitch it to them. But that's a great suggestion. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, all of you, for today's podcast, this discussion. I learned a lot. Yeah. So Ananya and Shriya, did you have a good time?
Yes, we had a great time.
Yeah, I had a great time.
It was
Now it's
amazing
time to ask.
speaking to both of you guys. It was really insightful to hear questions from you. Usually when we get questions, it's a little bit more technical and a little bit more adult oriented, but it's great to hear what the target audience, if I may, wants to know and what they like about the movie. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'm glad you clubbed me the target audience of under 15 years of age.
Thank you, because you facilitated this. All thanks to you.
My pleasure. All right. Thank you, guys. See ya. Bye.
See ya.
It was wonderful to hear a lot of insider stuff from the horse's mouth. I'm sure all our listeners too have been enthralled by several of these stories. We normally end every episode with a quiz. In this episode, there's a small twist. We do have a quiz, but it's based on what we spoke about in all 3 parts of this 100 Years of Disney series. If you haven't heard parts 1 and 2, please do go and give them a listen and then click on the quiz link in the show notes below. If for whatever reason you're unable to locate that link, do drop us an email at hello@wsnt.in. If you enjoyed listening to this banter between Chatrasal, Shriya, Ananya and I'm sure you'd love listening to other episodes of What's New Today and catching up on a lot of the current events around the world. So please do click follow and subscribe, and do leave us a rating and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. New episodes drop every Monday and Friday. And thanks for listening.